Okay, hello everyone, Lewis here once again, and today I'm going to be doing an overview of all the new spears which were added in Reborn mod on Terraria. The first weapon which was added, and is of course the weakest of the spears, is the copper spear, which costs 10 copper bars or the equivalent of 30 copper ore. Just one thing to note before I do go into more detail: of course you do make all of these weapons at anvil except the normal spear, which is found in a chest like it is in normal Terraria. And also, as you should be able to tell from the gameplay, the actual detection of the spear is different to a normal game. Instead of it just being the hit detection of the head of the spear, it's actually the entire body of the spear, which means it does a lot more damage than it did in normal Terraria. Although of course, like I said, this weapon is the worst of the spears, it is still without a doubt a very good weapon, and makes sure that any enemy early game cannot get anywhere near you, no matter how strong it is, even some of the higher level skeletons. Because for the low cost of item, it would only take about 5 to 10 minutes into an actual playthrough of Terraria to create this item, and it's definitely a weapon you should create if you do a playthrough using a Reborn mod, as it does allow you to cave a lot more efficiently. The weapon does only do 1 damage to a lot of enemies, such as skeletons, which is one of the weaker points of the weapon, but it's still a great weapon nonetheless, and of course since it is an item you can acquire very quick, I'm not expecting anything amazing. Next up is the iron spear, which costs 10 iron bars or the equivalent of 30 iron ore. This weapon does an additional 3 damage over original copper spear, and although that might not seem like a lot, it does actually make a massive difference, especially against some of the harder enemies such as the skeletons on the layer lowers of the world. This weapon is again very cheap, as of course with the iron bars it does only cost 3 iron ore to make these, so finding enough ore to make a iron spear doesn't take that much time at all, and since it is quite a big upgrade, boasting an extra 3 damage, it is definitely worth it and is a pretty awesome item. Simply because of the additional damage that this spear outputs compared to the copper spear, I would highly recommend you get this over the copper spear if you do actually have enough iron. But of course, if you are forced down a cave which simply has no iron and a lot of copper, the copper spear does the job anyway. Next up is the normal spear, which was of course found in the original Terraria, but does have a few differences, so I'm going to be covering it anyway. The spear does have a new hit detection which is found in the Reborn mod, meaning that it does a lot more damage than it did in the original Terraria, and on top of that it does also do an additional 1 damage, which make the stats completely identical to the iron spear. Since spears aren't exactly the rarest items in the game, and you will tend to find them within the first 5 minutes, it is an awesome weapon to get so early in the game. Other than that, there's not really anything of note for this weapon, as of course, like I said, it is exactly the same as the iron spear. Of course, if you don't have enough iron or copper early in the game, you can just search for chests instead, although in most cases you would find iron and copper before you do find a number of chests. Or if you just want to go deeper and deeper into the cave instead of making a base and don't really want to make an anvil, you can just look for chests instead and just leave all of the ore in your inventory and not waste it on the items which are literally exactly the same as the original spear. Next up is the silver spear, which costs a total of 10 silver bars or an equivalent of 40 silver ore. This weapon only does an additional 1 damage compared to the iron spear, and since of course it does cost 40 pieces of silver ore, and silver ore really isn't that common, it is really a weapon which you're probably not going to even get, and I wouldn't really recommend getting anyway, because of course it does only have a minor increase of damage. If you do happen to get really lucky and end up getting more silver than you do get in iron, then of course it is a nice upgrade over the iron spear, but in most cases you probably wouldn't even touch this item even if you wanted to. My recommendation if you were going to be focusing in melee weapons would be to simply skip this spear, use it on armor, and simply use the gold bars to make the gold spear, because it is quite a bit better than the iron spear, whereas this is only a small increase in damage. The final spear is the gold spear, which costs a total of 10 gold bars or 40 gold ore. Although this item is one of the more costly depending on how your luck turns out, it does boast a lot of damage. It has an extra 6 damage over the iron spear and an extra 5 damage over the silver spear. If you do end up getting good luck, you could actually get this within the first 20 minutes or so of the game, and since it's so strong, it can actually solo some of the bosses in the game. As you can see right here, I am actually killing the Eater of Worlds. I'd recommend simply focusing all of your gold ore and gold bars on the spear before you do anything else, and try to get maybe iron or silver armor instead of having to go straight to gold armor, and then simply killing the Eater of Worlds will allow you to get better armor because of the shadow scales and the demonite ore. That's pretty much it for all the spears which were added in the Reborn mod. If you did find this video useful or informative, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys next time in another video.